Yeah.
I was just kind of curious, like when you're arranging something or when you're just composing something,
Mhm.
like how do you like come up with like the initial idea? Like where does this spark come from? Is it like you sit down and you try to make the idea, or is it like you're like walking one day and you hear something in your head? Like what kind of like
Yeah. Um, so for arranging and composing, it's kind of two different ways. Usually for arranging, it's because I've been asked to do something by a client or,
mhm,
I've been commissioned to do something. So for arranging, usually the first step is determine the purpose of the arrangement. So
yeah,
is it for a client, or is it restricted in any way? Like, is it a specific ensemble? Is there a specific style that it has to be in? Does it feature a vocalist? What's that vocalist range? So I kind
sure.
of the first step is for me always figuring out what the parameters are. For composing, yeah, that is kind of more of a um, some of it's a little bit more extemporaneous, just in the moment. I hear a melody, I write it down, I sing it in. I don't write it down, I sing it into my phone badly,
Yeah.
like on a piano, um,
Mhm.
but with arranging, yeah, it's usually more calculated. So I'm looking at a timeline, I'm looking at all the parameters, and then once I have the parameters determined, I kind of like to use those restrictions sort of as a way to be creative. So
Yeah.
if it's a big band, maybe I challenge the big band in like the way that the instrumentation is normally set up. So maybe I'll add some doubling if it's available, or if it's like I've arranged a bunch of like Nirvana, for example. I did a whole commission about Nirvana for big band,
Oh,
and that
darn.
was
Wow.
like, yeah, it was really cool, right?
Yeah.
But using the concepts of like, okay, well, big bands don't normally play rock, so how do I make it so that it sounds great and use the restrictions sort of the instrumentation and the styles that they're used to playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically just exploring what the limitations are, and then trying to figure out how to bend them from there. And then I write it down as a like a basic format. So I just take like the chorus is 8 bars and this
Yeah.
verse is 16 bars, and then they do a bridge that's an 8 bar buildup and something like that. So I just write down the whole form.
Mhm.
And then I figure out like, do I have to keep the form exactly, or can I bend it? Can I add a solo section? Can I add like a development section, things like that. And yeah, basically just figuring out what the main things are, and then figuring out how I can mess with them and still maintain integrity.